Indian defence sites inside Pakistan. BSF neutralizes infiltration bid by 7 Jaish terrorists in Samba sector. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar reiterates India's strong stance against terror in phone conversation with UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy. A lame defense in the face of the superior Indian attack. Khwaja Asif says Pakistan did not intercept Indian drones as it didn't want to leak locations. Pakistan government faces fire in parliament. PTI member of parliament Shahid Ahmed calls Sharif a buzdil. BCCI suspends IPL 2025 season with immediate effect for a week in view of the tensions. And big story of the day. The third Operation Sindhu press conference exposed the low standards of the Pakistani state. Centre confirmed that 300 plus Turkish drones were fired by Pakistan to map intelligence in India. Pakistan also did not close its airspace during the attack and used commercial airliners as a shield. Western Front continue to be on alert and advisories are in place. But before we go further and discuss the second part, which is going to be on why Pakistan cannot afford to go to war with India, let's listen in to Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh.
8 से 9 मई 2025 की मध्य रात्रि को पाकिस्तानी सेना ने सैन्य बुनियादी ढांचे को निशाना बनाने के इरादे से पूरी पश्चिमी सेना पर भारतीय वायु क्षेत्र का कई बार उल्लंघन किया। यही नहीं बल्कि पाकिस्तानी सेना ने नियंत्रण रेखा पर भारी कैलिबर वाले हथियारों से गोलीबारी भी की। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सीमा और नियंत्रण रेखा पर लेह से लेकर सरक्रीक तक 36 स्थानों पर 300 से 400 लगभग ड्रोनों का इस्तेमाल घुसपैठ का प्रयास करने के लिए किया गया। भारतीय सशस्त्र बलों ने काइनेटिक व नॉन काइनेटिक साधनों का उपयोग करके इनमें से कई ड्रोन्स को मार गिराया। इतने बड़े पैमाने पर हवाई घुसपैठों का संभावित उद्देश्य वायु रक्षा प्रणालियों का परीक्षण करना और खुफिया जानकारी इकट्ठा करना था। ड्रोन के मलबे की फोरेंसिक जांच की जा रही है। प्रारंभिक रिपोर्ट्स से पता चलता है कि वे तुर्की के असीस गार्ड सोंगर ड्रोन्स हैं। इसके उपरांत रात में पाकिस्तान के एक सशस्त्र यूएवी ने भटिंडा सैन्य स्टेशन को निशाना बनाने की कोशिश भी की, जिसे पकड़ा गया और उसे निष्क्रिय कर दिया गया। पाकिस्तानी हमले के जवाब में पाकिस्तान में 4 हवाई रक्षा स्थलों पर सशस्त्र ड्रोन्स लॉन्च किए गए। इनमें से एक ड्रोन एडी रडार को नष्ट करने में सक्षम रहा। पाकिस्तान ने जम्मू कश्मीर के तंगधार, उरी, पुंछ, मेंढर, राजौरी, अखनूर और उधमपुर में भारी कैलिबर आर्टिलरी गन और सशस्त्र ड्रोन्स का उपयोग करके नियंत्रण रेखा के पार गोलीबारी भी की, जिसके परिणाम स्वरूप भारतीय सेना के कुछ जवान हताहत हुए और घायल हुए। भारतीय जवाबी कार्रवाई में पाकिस्तानी सेना को भी बड़ा नुकसान पहुंचाया गया। इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान का गैर जिम्मेदाराना व्यवहार फिर से सामने आया। 7 मई 2025 को रात 8:30 बजे एक असफल अकारण ड्रोन और मिसाइल हमला करने के बावजूद पाकिस्तान ने अपना नागरिक हवाई क्षेत्र बंद नहीं किया। पाकिस्तान अपने नागरिक विमानों को ढाल के रूप में इस्तेमाल कर रहा है, जबकि उसे अच्छी तरह से पता है कि भारत पर उसके हमले से हवाई रक्षा की तीव्र प्रतिक्रिया होगी।
Pakistan military also resorted to firing of heavy caliber weapons along the line of control. Along the international border and line of control, drone intrusions were attempted from Leh to Sarkreek at 36 locations with approximately 300 to 400 drones. Indian Armed Forces brought down a number of these drones using kinetic and non-kinetic means. The possible purpose of these large-scale aerial intrusions were to test the AD systems and gather intelligence. Forensic examination of the drone debris is being undertaken. Preliminary reports suggest them to be of Aziz Guard Songa drone of Turkey. Later in the night, an armed UAV of Pakistan attempted to target Bhatinda military station, which was detected and neutralized. In response to the Pakistani attack, armed drones were launched at 4 air defense sites in Pakistan. One of the drones was able to destroy an AD radar. Pakistan also carried out artillery shelling across the line of control using heavy caliber artillery guns and armed drones at Kandahar, Uri, Poonch, Mendhar, Rajouri, Akhnur and Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir area, which resulted in some losses and injuries to Indian Army personnel. Pakistan Army also suffered major losses in Indian retaliatory fire. Additionally, Pakistan's irresponsible behavior again came to fore. Pakistan did not close its civil airspace despite it launching a failed unprovoked drone and missile attack on 7th May at 8:30 hours in the evening. Pakistan is using civil airliners as a shield, knowing fully well that its attack on India would elicit a swift air defense response. This is not safe for the unsuspecting civil airliners, including the international flights which were flying near IB between India and Pakistan. The screenshot we just showed and we shall share with you, it shows the data of the application Flight Radar 24 during a high air defense alert situation in the Punjab sector. As you have seen, the airspace on the Indian side is absolutely devoid of civil air traffic due to our declared closure. However, there are civil airlines flying the air route between Karachi and Lahore. Amongst the other civil aircraft that you can see, we have highlighted an aircraft which is Airbus 320 of Flynas Aviation, which was originated from Dammam at 1750 hours and landed later at Lahore at 2110 hours in the night. Indian Air Force demonstrated considerable restraint in its response, thus ensuring safety of international civil carriers.
Centre also pointed out that the Pakistani army targeted Christian institutions and Gurdwara that led to injuries and loss of life.
During heavy shelling across the line of control in the early morning of 7th May, a shell fired from Pakistan landed just behind the Christ School run by the Carmelites of Mary Immaculate congregation in Poonch. Tragically, the shell fired from Pakistan hit the home of 2 students of the Christ School. Both students unfortunately lost their lives and their parents were severely injured. Another Pakistani shell struck a Christian convent of nuns belonging to the congregation of the Mother of Carmel, damaging water tanks and destroying solar panel infrastructure. Several priests, nuns, school staff and local residents took refuge in an underground hall beneath the Christ School during the shelling by Pakistan. The school happened to be closed at the time, fortunately. Otherwise, more losses would have occurred. Again, we have seen the Pakistani side targeting and shelling places of worship with a particular design. This includes gurdwaras, these convents and temples. This is a new low even for Pakistan.
I'm joined by Ambassador Sanjay Bhattacharya, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Ambassador Jayant Dasgupta, former Ambassador to WTO, and Dr. P.K. Mishra, former ADG BSF. Thank you all of you for joining my show. It's divided into 2 parts, sir. The first part is the revelations made today by the 2 officers, Colonel Qureshi and Vyomika Singh. And the second part is why Pakistan cannot afford war with India, where we'll discuss the economy, political economy, and other issues. But first to you, Dr. Mishra, 36 locations, 300 to 400 drones, Turkish drones armed to map intelligence and violated the entire western sector. I'm saying what's the larger objective? To keep the forces on tenterhook? Well, in which perspective are we supposed to see what happened yesterday between 8 o'clock and 9:30?
Yes, Karthikeya, I can well tell. You have clearly told they were Turkish drones, and they were about 300 to 400 numbers. And see the locations. They crossed and they have hit. They did hit at Tangdhar, Uri, and Punch, Rajouri, Mendhar, Akhnur, and what all places. And it clearly shows that they planned. They just planned properly. General Munir has planned properly, and he thought of escalating the war. That was not our intention. The way we did hit at 9 places, that was clearly on jihadi training camps, very clearly, and not a civil area was targeted, neither any military installation was targeted by India. But what they planned, at 36 places they could hit with missiles and drones. And just see, I will tell you, there were drones coming on Vaishno Mata, on top of Vaishno Mata, and also top of Jammu University. They were of course brought down. And worst part of it, they did hit one Gurudwara at Punch, where 2 children, they were killed. And that is really, it's a great loss. And of course, the school was closed where the water tank was hit. And whole night, I'm telling you, whole night, they kept on firing with heavy caliber weapons. Starting at Tangdhar, they are fired at Kiran, they are fired at Tangdhar, and they are fired at Uri and Punch, everywhere. And the last, I'll tell you, Karthikeyan, there was a penetration in Samba, where covering fire was given from Sialkot, and militants, Jais militant, they were trying to manipulate to come inside India, and 7 of them, they were killed by BSF authorities. And of course, 4 or 5 more, they were there, they could escape, those who were there opposite side of the fencing. That means they were trying to push Jais Mohammed militants again to India, giving covering fire of artillery from Sialkot. That is what has happened yesterday.
Okay, I'll come to you again. I'm also joined by Major General P.K. Chakravarti, who served as Deputy Director General Perspective Planning and Directorate. Sir, there's one thing which is very disturbing, which was part of the press conference, that Pakistan did not close its airspace, and the drone attack took place, and the commercial airliners were still in air. And we all know that the drones and the commercial airliners don't go together. The couple of accidents that have taken place in the Ukrainian theater, especially the flights which were flying over Ukraine, they were actually brought down by anti-drone systems. And the one plane which crashed in the South Central Asia was also a victim of these anti-drone systems.
Thank you, Karthikeya. I think you brought out a very correct point. I think Pakistan is really playing with fire. Of course, we are firing, we are engaging each other. But the point is that you allow a civilian airliner. I am told that it's not only a civilian airliner, it's an international airliner, an Airbus. I really don't know which airline, but which was flying from Daman to Lahore. That's what was said in the press brief. Why is it being done? And from our part, we are trying our best. But if they are violating their own NOTAMs, if I may say, they have issued NOTAMs, they have done everything. It means that they are really possibly, I can only make out one thing, that they are not clear what international behavior is. Very simplistic. They allow terrorism to continue. They allow civilian aircrafts to fly between Daman and Lahore. Possibly it had flown from the line Karachi to Lahore is still open to PIA. Now, these are issues which are very, very disturbing, because if today, by any chance, somehow we could come to know it. Otherwise, believe me or not, one of our drones could have straight away attacked that airliner. And there's no way in which those people could be saved. Well, on one hand, India is showing tremendous restraint. On the other hand, Pakistan is possibly crossing all limits. And as I see it, I must say it right now. The United States, J.D. Vance has made a very great statement that it's for both of them to do what they want to do. Russia has made a mild statement, and possibly the only window I saw is a Saudi Arabia junior minister. Saudi Arabia is a very important country who has landed there. And Pakistan is really, I personally feel, in a very desperate state. To launch so many places after 1970 war, even during the 71 war, I think many of these places were not covered. Since I was alive and was kicking at that very time, I was in the Indian Military Academy, I can tell you that they have become desperate. They are doing what they should not be doing. They are targeting civilians. They are allowing civilian aircrafts to fly. And what I would like to say is that there are 9 corps commanders who, along with the Chief of Army Staff, and you have the Chief of Naval Staff, you have the Chief of Air Staff, none of them are possibly understanding these issues. It shows that they have no idea of how a combat goes. I would like to correct one thing which the previous esteemed speaker said. None of the targets were hit. Possibly even that Gurdwara is a case of shelling, since I've seen that Gurdwara in Punch. I don't think it is a case of a drone or a, what you call, shall we say, a kamikaze drone or what you call a missile hitting it. It's possibly a shell which could have hit the Gurdwara, and I've seen the Gurdwara in Punch, and therefore it's very sad. But the point is that, well, as far as shelling is concerned, both sides are shelling. What we are doing is possibly precise shelling. What they are doing is possibly indiscriminate shelling. And such behavior, well, leaves us with no other option but to continue showing our patience. But there is a limit to which patience can be shown. And all I would say is that I hope better sense prevails within the Pakistani environment to not do these things.
Okay.
I end over here. Thank you.
Okay, a very warm welcome to Air Marshal VPS Chana. Thank you so much, sir. But let me straight away go to Ambassador Sanjay Bhattacharya. So how do we decode the behavior? Because they have violated the entire western sector. They have violated the western sector, hit the civilian areas, created panic in urban centers, from Sir Creek to Leh.
Well, the first thing that seems quite evident to me is that Asim Munir is definitely under a lot of pressure. The first strikes of Operation Sindoor have had the desired success that we had wanted, and that has put the pressure on him. The pressure on the Pakistan army is coming from within, because its unholy alliance with the jihadists and the terrorists, and the second part of that has suffered quite violently in the first strikes of the Operation Sindoor, are putting pressure on the armed forces now. That's probably one story. The other is that, is it possible that Asim Munir needs to save face? He's done his term for about 3 years, and is there a likelihood that there is a certain sentiment within the armed forces that unless he shows up a strong front, that he could actually face a coup within the Pakistan army? So I think there are a number of reasons. But Pakistan does not always observe the normal norms of international behavior. So this is quite unexpected, but also not something that we should not have expected.
Ambassador Jain Dasgupta, your opening comments on the fact that not only they used the civilian airliners as shield, but they have gone on to hit civilian infrastructure, schools, gurudwaras, a Christian missionary institution, and this indiscriminate fight. Do you think that this behavior will continue on part of Pakistan, sir?
Pakistan has been doing this for ages. They have been shelling indiscriminately, and you go to any of these border areas in Jammu, and you will find that there are these shell casings, there are these other remnants of the ammunition which has been let loose on the civilian population. So that is par for the course for Pakistan. They just don't bother about these small niceties of war. The second point is about this civilian airspace being also utilized. I think it is a very calculated gesture on the part of the Pakistan armed forces that should India mistakenly or hit one of these civilian airlines, there would be a big hullabaloo that India is also targeting civilian aircraft and it is butchering people. Especially the international airline which was flying from Dammam to one of the Pakistani airports. If that had been hit, it may have also carried a lot of international passengers. So that is what Pakistan is banking on. It doesn't bother about its own populace also, whether they get killed or they stay alive. So they are banking on India hitting one of these civilian airliners or whether domestic or international, and then using it to their advantage to put the blame on India and paint it in a very dark light.
Before I move on to the really important part, I'll share the figures of the Pakistan's economy, compare it with the Indian economy. Marshal Rana, explain to us the logic of using 400 drones across the western sector, concentrated in Punjab and Jammu sector. Why did Pakistan do it? And why is the attack so intense in Jammu, so intense in Punjab?
See, this has been the Pakistan's intent all along. If you study the earlier wars as well, their main thrust has always been into in this sector. But this is the new era warfare where now the low-cost drones are being used for a much more effect than what their cost dynamics are. So one of the reasons why this main concentration has been on this area is probably to probe your air defenses, that what are the kind of responses that are coming through. In case they can saturate our air defenses with these kind of cheap drone and the swarm drones, then I think that must have been their intent. But I must tell you that it is not necessarily that your entire air defense system will come into a thing for the kind of swarm drone attack that has happened. Air defense system is a multi-layered system which starts with from its brain into the integrated air command and control system, which integrates all radars. There's a large, huge number of airborne and ground radars which are integrated into the system. The system is equipped with a very high-end computers which analyzes the threat and thereafter gives threat to the appropriate weapon system. And these multi-layered weapon system, like rightly what you are showing on the screen, starts from the large distances, which is a system like S-400, then MRSAM, and Akash system, followed by the shoulder-fired missiles, and then by also the air defense guns. In this attack in Jammu and Srinagar sector and in this whole area, most of the neutralization of these drones, in my opinion, has happened by the AD guns and the shoulder-fired missiles and the low-end air defense system, and not by the S-400. Because S-400 would actually be taking on the much serious threat of the aircraft, of the ballistic missiles, and of the missiles. And this must have been the intent of the Pakistan to just probe and see that what is the kind of air defense response that you would give. And also that it utilizes to get the intelligence on your weapon systems and then counter it. So it is a cat and mouse game. We have done that to them when we have attacked their air defense systems. We have done it through the smart munitions, loitering munitions, which actually hovers around, waits for their switching on their signal, and thereafter destroys them. So we have been in a pinpoint attack, precise attack onto their air defense systems. We did that yesterday to the HQ9 complex, and as per the PIB this thing today, we have done one more systems has been neutralized. 4 of their systems were attacked. This is in effect the testing of the air defense systems, which in our case they haven't done, and their defense minister himself said that we did not attack those drones because we did not want to let our position be known. But he doesn't know that the smart drones or the loitering munitions that are there will wait for 8 to 9 hours. You don't have to respond immediately. So as and when they get activated, they will get knocked out. So in our case, we have only demonstrated, in my opinion, less than 1% of our capability as far as the air defense part is concerned, responding to their, the swarm drone attacks. The serious business is yet to come.
Okay, the serious business is yet to come. Also joined by Aditya Raj Kaur, Executive Editor, Strategic Affairs, News9. Aditya, what are you picking up? And one thing I want to ask you, when this question was put to Vikram Misri, Foreign Secretary, by one of the reporters about the response, so Mr. Misri said, "Jawab de diya hai."
There is a de-escalation happening. That's my understanding. There's a de-escalation happening, at least from the Indian side, because India obviously does not want a war, but if there is a provocation, India will not look the other way. India is still waiting for the reaction. I agree with my co-panelist when he says that, this was not an attack. What happened yesterday was basically drones coming in.
I must just stop you. Not once the word war has been used by any of the officials of the Indian government.
Yes.
They have used the word anti-terror operation.
Absolutely.
Or a balanced, calibrated counter-response.
Or a war on terrorism, like Vinay Quatra said. But as of now, what I believe is happening, that drones were sent, 500 Turkish drones, to study the activity of the air defenses, to study where the ammunition depots are, to study where the vital installations are, but to also study, most importantly, our response time and our capabilities. Interestingly, all of these drones did not have any kind of ammunition on them. It was not like our kamikaze drones that hit Rawalpindi and few other places and there was minor destruction. So as of now, I will tell you that there are 2 versions coming in from Pakistan, or perhaps 3. The Pakistani government, the civilian government, is desperate for a mediation. It understands that it cannot continue a long war and cannot show a face to the Pakistani public in the face of a defeat. The Sharifs, not the Shehbaz Sharif, the real Sharif, Nawaz Sharif, is completely missing. His daughter, the Punjab Chief Minister, is completely missing. She's not been visible for the last 2 weeks. The Pakistan army, on the other hand, is desperate for a bloodlust revenge and retaliation against India. So the future of Pakistan will now depend on the next steps that the Pakistan army, that Rawalpindi takes against India. And India is aware that yesterday was some kind of a decoy, some kind of a diversion. The real attack is yet to happen.
Real attack is yet to happen. If you're saying the real attack is yet to happen, are you saying that the entire sector will stay on alert like this?
Absolutely, no doubts in my mind. I mean,
But you also use the word de-escalation.
I use de-escalation because India does not want a war. India does not want a confrontation that entangles the entire border, etc. And India did not escalate. India is only responding every time to the escalation of Pakistan. They did Pahalgam, so we did the 9 location attacks on terror infrastructure. They tried to, hit our cities, and we tried to hit them back on their air radars and all the places. So we are waiting. The yesterday's is not technically an attack. It's an intrusion. It's an intrusion into our airspace, etc., trying to create panic, etc. But they are still waiting that fatal, lethal kind of an attack that Pakistan wants to do. It's been claiming, and only basis will be a reaction. But mind you, Vikram Misri was also clear on that. The government of India is very clear. This has been communicated to Marco Rubio also yesterday, that if there is an escalation from Pakistan, if there is any kind of an attack that is launched again, that causes civilian casualties, that causes harm to our vital installations or military units, etc., there will be even more forceful attack. Operation Sindoor 3 would be launched against them.
Okay. Now, despite this, Pakistan is in talk with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, China to help defuse the crisis, as they claim. And Pakistan has been saying that they are the victim. But let me just take you through certain statistics. What makes the position of Pakistan precarious in the real terms, which is economy. And why I say that it's difficult for them to afford the war. One, high external debt, $130 billion. Second, low forex reserves, 15 billion. Third, reserves can pay only 3 months of imports. Fourth, Pakistan got IMF bailout of $7 billion in 24, and there's going to be a meeting. They have a high sovereign stress. Fifth, war to affect Pak macroeconomic stability. Sixth, war would risk labor-intensive agriculture. Agriculture employs 40% of its labor force. Pakistan has a perpetual electricity crisis. Lower middle income poverty rate stands at 42.3%. Huge dependence on imported fuel. Limited refining capacity, which is very important for military. Sky high inflation, 12%. And India's forex reserve stands at $677 billion. Single shock can lead to collapse of Pak economy. Pak also has a poor industrial base and absent manufacturing. So my question to Ambassador Bhattacharya is, when our economy is 10 times that of Pakistan, and when you know that you cannot pay your bills, and the money is going to run out in 3 months, how the hell are they going to afford a so-called war or attrition, sir? I mean, so what's the logic? Don't generals understand that, sir?
No, I don't think they do. And if they did, they should not have followed this particular strategy. I think they believe that there is a certain asymmetry that they can achieve by the use of terrorist forces and by holding out a certain nuclear threat. And therefore, they feel that India would not retaliate. And I think what Op Sindoor has indicated is that if there is a heinous terrorist attack, we shall retaliate, and we shall retaliate in reciprocal manner. And if there is further escalation, we shall reciprocate again in terms of retaliation. So I think they have desperately miscalculated. They have not relied on the economic basis of their economy for the development of the terrorist forces. Money has been diverted. This is something that had been brought up in the FATF when the Pakistanis were on the grey list. This is something that's going to be brought up at the IMF when they meet today. And I think, when the World Bank was also extending a loan, because earlier this year, the World Bank contracted for a significant development assistance to Pakistan, that there were these concerns that were raised, that this is a country that actually does not believe in development or empowerment of its people, but actually believes in having this asymmetry because of a violent hatred for its neighbor. So I think they do not understand that.
Yes, I agree with you that they don't understand. But Ambassador Dasgupta, what do you think will happen in the meeting which is going to take place in a short time from now? One of the tranches, which is $1 billion, which is going to be on table, which will be discussed in a couple of hours from now? Will they get
there are two aspects to this whole thing about the IMF meeting. One is about $1.3 billion, which is for the Climate Resilience Fund. And the other part is the review for the next tranche of the $7 billion package, extended facility, fund facility, which was given in September 2024. So that is subject to reviews. So India, of course, will oppose. But as you know, in the IMF, in proportion to the contributions made by different countries, they have their voting rights. So India has a very insignificant share of the votes, and it mainly depends on the US and the Europeans. If they decide that they will not release the next tranche of the IMF funds under the EFF to Pakistan, then Pakistan will be very hard pressed to carry on in the same manner. But Pakistan has been overly dependent on Saudi Arabia and Qatar to a certain extent, and of course China. China, because it supplies about 80% of its arms and ammunition. So it is banking on this all or nothing kind of a misadventure that it will, carry on. And if it comes to the crunch, these iron, brother China and of course the others who are kindly disposed towards them will come to their rescue. But that is not going to take place, apart from China, which is unpredictable. I think the Saudis have made it very clear And that is why the Saudi minister made an unscheduled sudden visit to India to ask for, negotiated kind of a settlement and talks between the two sides, in which the Saudis are understood to have said that they would be willing to mediate. The Iranians also have made similar, I think, gestures. So these are the things which Pakistan has been banking upon. And in the IMF, of course, it will depend entirely on the US and the Europeans what they want to do.
Aditya, there is some news coming in, breaking in.
Well, there is an interview that Khwaja Asif has just given the defense minister, and the anchor asks him that what are the options left, because India has done what it has, but there's no response coming in from Pakistan. Are you going for a full-blown war? And his answer to this is that do we have any other option? So, I would say that this is posturing. This is kind of a posturing happening from the defense minister, because today in the India-Pakistan conflict and its entire fog of war, the most humiliated person, I would say, in this entire exercise is Khwaja Asif. I mean, look at his answers in international press and the way international journalists and anchors are questioning him. And Kartikeya, he's going back on his statements. He said Indians have been taken as prisoners of war, and then he said it's wrong. He said, we have evidence of jets being, downed. And then he said, what is the evidence? He said, social media. So this is the kind of response.
General Chakravarti, a case of hyperbole?
Well, see, Pakistan has always been like this. The first time I really heard Pakistan was during the 1965 war. I was alive then. Then came the 1971 war, which they still say was a draw. If you meet Pakistanis and all, they don't say that Bangladesh was created. They say it was a draw. 1965, they call it a victory. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, they have never been steady. I think one thing I must admire, the diplomatic corps is very suave, very polished in their language, but equally they are great in somehow getting the Europeans, Americans and the Chinese. This is not from today. Right from the days of President Ayub Khan, I have been seeing that the Europeans, Americans and the others, and of course the generals are all trained in the United States. So the US also, despite being everything with us, somehow, there is a soft corner for Pakistan. And this allows them to constantly waver from one side to the other. And they have always, had a very shifting positions. The U-2 aircraft, which was, launched from one of the Pakistan bases and was shot by the Soviet Union. You look at their stance on Afghanistan. You look at their stance today whenever Americans want something, whenever the Chinese want something. It's a state which doesn't go on any steady principles. There is no restraint. There is no botheration for the people. It's a feudal state, if I may put it. And the generals control the nation.
Okay.
It's not the army. I must put this statement, which is most important and which will clarify. By the way, the Pakistani army owns Pakistan. It is not Pakistan that owns the army. I think that answers everything.
Okay.
So everything. I must say also one more thing. I met a Pakistani diplomat and he said that, you people also must be looking. Now this is very easy for promotions and all. I said, my dear friend, I am a retired general. I live the most ordinary things. My car stands in a line when I have to cross anything. And so does any other general or his wife who is serving. He is given no privileges anywhere. But today, Pakistanis, when I tell them that driving license takes much time, we have to go and do, then my goodness, what type of army you are? So the Pakistani army, they are doing everything, business, they're doing everything. As a matter of fact, soldiering is a part-time profession, if I may put it, as far as Pakistan is concerned. And they're least bothered about all these, what we are talking.
Oh yes, there's a very fine book written by Aisha Siddiqa, Pakistan Cooperation. Very quick comment from Ambassador Bhattacharya, and then I'll go back to this issue of incursion. So is it fondness or dependence?
I think there is a two-way traffic that there is between the Pakistanis and many of their foreign partners. In some ways, China has been able to use Pakistan to keep India within, or that's what their intention has been, to keep India within a South Asian framework. For Turkey, it has been an expansion of their Islamic identity and their aspirations for a certain representation in the Islamic community, which is why they use Pakistan. And for some of the other Islamic states, and I think there we see a change, because the kind of support that Pakistan got from the Gulf states in the past is hardly present today. And they have changed the position very significantly. So I think there is a sort of shifting sand so far as Pakistan is concerned. And the more it becomes a failed or a failing state, that particular viability that Pakistan has will also diminish. And we see this already, for instance, with some of the Europeans and some of the Americans as well.
Okay, let me straight away go to now Dr. Mishra. Dr. Mishra, now LOC has become very, very hot. We are getting news that massive shelling is taking place in the Uri sector. I mean, so is any specific reason why, this shelling is concentrated there, sir, in last 48 hours in Uri?
It's only at Uri. In fact, it has started from 1800 hours today evening. Again, it has started, and more or less it is very heavy artillery weapon. They are using it. The range is about 15 to 18 kilometers range, and they are hitting only at Uri and to some extent Nowshera. But more or less, it is on Uri, because you see, this is the place. There are two places where their militants can enter. The penetration tactics, they want to follow it at Uri, so as also at at Samba. These are the two places they want their jihadis to penetrate. Of course, they have attacked through drones and missiles. That's a different issue. But you see the geographical position of Uri. There are so many gaps, and they give this firing cover, heavy firing cover, so that their militants can penetrate easily through the gaps, and they go to their sleeper cells and where they get the concealment, and they can get go to their hideouts. Similar thing they will do it in Jammu border, because the Jammu border is because it is very close to national highway. It's hardly 7 kilometers from national highway, which goes from Pathankot to Jammu. So this Samba area is very, very volatile, and Sialkot, once it fires heavily, they give artillery fire like that of Uri. Whole night yesterday they were firing, and in fact the officers, BSF officers, they came to know after Jammu was in fact when these drones were fired on Jammu and they were brought down, and the heavy firing started from Sialkot on Samba, they came to know there will be a penetration. Similarly, Uri also penetration will be there, because there are few camps still exist opposite to Samba at Sialkot. Even though we have demolished 2 of their camps, militant camps there, still they have, because they are being sheltered by army and ISI at Sialkot headquarters, and they wanted to penetrate. Of course, that was known, because in the drones, the officers and the technical officers, they could come to know the exact route where they will be crossing, and they could hit them very badly, and all 7 of them were killed. And that is what is going to happen at Uri. We have to be very cautious, because they have got a number of...
Very cautious, because Chardham Yatra is going to start soon. We have to be very cautious, because this Chardham Yatra, I don't know whether this will... Amarnath Yatra, I don't know how they are going to organize the Amarnath Yatra now. Let me just say, go across to Air Marshal VP Sana. So as Aditya was saying, that this was to map the terrain. It means that the Pakistanis are actually planning the real strike, if I go by this assessment.
Absolutely. Whether or not they are planning a strike is anybody's guess. But positively, this is something that you have the capability to understand the air defense setup of the other side. So this, when you are sending out any airborne projectile, obviously the air defense system is activated. So air defense system works on 24/7, irrespective whether it's a war or peace. And it does not start from where your presentation is showing. That is the weapon end of the air defense system. Air defense system is not just the weapon system part. Air defense starts much earlier than that. It is like I covered earlier. It is about the detection. It is about the identification. Then it is about the taking a decision that which weapon system is going to take this particular threat based on the characteristics of that threat. And that is when all this starts, what you are indicating on your screen, that once this is allocated to a specific weapon system, then that weapon system activates its own radars, its own acquisition radar, and then it allocates it to the appropriate launcher, and then the appropriate launcher, whether they want to do it solo or they want to launch mini missiles in salvo. So that comes little later. So this entire spectrum of air defense, if you are aware about the enemy, then you can plan your air strikes accordingly. Why did we go to neutralize their radars and weapon system? Is because this is part of the suppression of enemy air defenses. Before anything that you think of air strikes deep into enemy territory, then you have to take out their air defense systems first. And it does not start just from the weapon. You would start taking out their surveillance radars. You would start taking out their command and control centers, which is actually the nerve center of air defense system, and then also the weapon systems. So it is not so much to take on.
Sir, is it correct to say that the swarm drones or the drone technology is the new frontier of war, the way tanks were in the First World War? Or the way
absolutely. You must very interesting fact is, like our L-70 guns and Zeus, and some time back these had almost become irrelevant, in the sense that because the air warfare had changed its character. You had the standoff weapons. You didn't have to enter this thing. Like even today we have the capability that we do not need to enter Pakistan to neutralize all their strategic targets. So the air warfare had changed, but come drones, and this has actually changed the entire spectrum of the warfare. Now they are going right up to 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers. There are soldiers who are actually controlling the drone. The drones have become their eyes. Drones have also become their extended weapons. So it has created a huge nuisance in the air defense system. And therefore, it is the biggest challenge as far as the air defense systems are concerned, that how to neutralize this. Now, of course, slowly we have now gone the countermeasures against drone in last 1 or 2 years. But believe you me, this is a big headache for the air defense systems. And that is how now the more kinetic weapons have come, because you cannot be downing a drone with S-400 kind of multi-billion-dollar system, while that drone is costing $50 or $100.
Absolutely, sir. It's like Iron Dome system. Their missiles were costing $15 million, and the rockets were, I think they were costing $200,000. So the economy of the Iron Dome system was so expensive, and even Israelis ran out of their missiles.
So now, therefore, we have to have the countering for the drone, and I'm sure we already have. Now there are different radars that are there to pick up these projectiles. A normal surveillance radar will not be able to do this. So there are spaceless radars which will pick up these slow-moving projectiles and the drones, and then there are low-cost effectors which will
Important
be put to use. Like it could be laser, it could be the jamming of this thing. Radio jamming can take down the drones. Then you have the laser guided weapons. Then you have these guns. So like I said, these guns have come back into favor because of this. So now we are happy that we upgraded all these L-70 guns, and today in what you saw yesterday night, in all likelihood, these are the L-70 guns who are taking down these drones, and possibly not the S-400.
Okay. Aditya, very quickly before we close down our conversation, any back channel development?
Well, the Saudi minister was in Pakistan, and that says it all. The Iranians did whatever they could, but they have not been successful. Not that anybody thought that they would be successful, But the Americans have said, J.D. Vance has said that this is not our business. Why should we get into it? And that's the kind of statement that Indians wanted to hear for the last 2 decades. So I think there's a positive movement from the US. But ultimately, whatever happens, either it's a small scale confrontation or a so-called war, etc., etc. But I believe there would be finally mediation by these 3 key elements: the United States, Saudi, and UAE, that are trusted by India, and Pakistan has no other way but to trust and go by what they say. As of now, the minister from Pakistan has come out and said that NSAs are in communication. The DGMOs speak every Wednesday, so they might have spoken already day before yesterday. But as of now, I don't see anything coming up.
Let me ask this question to Ambassador Das Gupta. Sir, during Manmohan Musharraf, if my memory serves me right, there were strong back channels. I read Mr. Lamba's book on the sort of conversations which took place at multiple places, a very definitive account of the sort of meetings which took place. Is there any back channel left in Pakistan? Is there any back channel which India and Pakistan have, sir, today?
Well, the back channels are there, but whether they are in active mode or not will depend a lot on the Pakistani armed forces leadership.
Oh, are they relevant? Are they relevant?
Yes, they are relevant. When Pakistan has had enough, it knows that it can't carry on, then it will activate those back channels and it will start talking. And that is when I think we will have to tell them very clearly that this is just not on. The kind of behavior that they have been indulging in, and blatantly saying that they don't have any terror camps on their territory, etc. And Sajid Veer, of course, is there for everybody to see. Yes. So they have been inveterate liars, at least the military leadership and the ISI. And that is what they will come down to, using these back channels once they know that they have their backs to the wall and they have no other option.
Okay, Ambassador Bhattacharya, 1 minute to you. I need to close the show. Relevance of back channels. Is there a back channel? Does Pakistan respect a back channel? That's the most important thing.
Well, the back channels have been there, and I think they will continue to be there. But I would go with what Ambassador Das Gupta was saying, that their efficacy depends on the moment when they are activated and the level of trust that is there in the leadership in what they can achieve or suggest.
Thank you. I think on this note, I really need to close the show and pass the baton to my colleague Padmaja Joshi. Thank you all of you for joining me on Point. And I'll see you tomorrow at the same time at 7 p.m. Good night.
बेबो का एक ही रूल, रोज खाओ अंडे विदाउट भूल.
Cause eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool. Summer में एनर्जी हो जाती है कम. खाओ अंडे